Silently, the humans left Abodkas, forcing the council to face its consequences. The council chamber buzzed with hundreds of alien voices. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated sections, arranged in a massive circular room. At the center stood a raised platform where speakers presented their cases. The air smelled of various alien atmospheres mixed together, creating a unique scent that only existed in this one place in the entire galaxy. Commander Daniel Carter stood near the human section, watching the chaos unfold. He had attended these meetings for 12 years now, and every single time it felt the same. The council members argued about borders, about trade routes, about resources. They blamed each other for problems and took credit for solutions they never helped create. Next to Daniel stood Ambassador Linda Hayes. She had served the council for even longer than he had. 23 years of her life spent trying to make peace between species who seemed to enjoy conflict more than cooperation. Her face showed tiredness that no amount of sleep could fix. "They are doing it again," Linda whispered to Daniel, "blaming us for something we warned them about." Daniel nodded slowly. On the central platform, Councillor Vrix was speaking. The reptilian leader's scales flashed in anger as he pointed one clawed finger toward the human section. His voice echoed through the chamber, translated instantly into every language present. "The humans were supposed to prevent the Terrius conflict," Vrix said loudly. "They had peacekeepers stationed there. They had intelligence about the rising tensions. Yet they failed to stop the violence that claimed 12,000 lives." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Several council members turned to look at the humans with disapproval in their eyes. Daniel felt his jaw tighten. He had read the reports. Human peacekeepers had sent 14 separate warnings to the council about Terrius. They had requested additional support 3 times. Each request was denied. The council said humans were being too emotional, too worried about minor issues. When the violence finally erupted, those same council members blamed the humans for not doing enough. Linda touched Daniel's arm gently. "Let me handle this," she said quietly. She walked to the speaker's platform. The chamber did not grow quiet when she arrived. That was another thing Daniel had noticed over the years. When other species spoke, the council showed respect with silence. When humans spoke, many continued their side conversations. "Councillor Vrix," Linda began, her voice steady and professional. "The human peacekeeping force sent multiple warnings about Terrius. We requested support that was denied. We followed every protocol the council established." "Protocols," Vrix said with something like a laugh. "Always hiding behind protocols. Perhaps if humans were less concerned with paperwork and more focused on action, those lives would have been saved." More agreement from the council. Delegate Shara, an insectoid representative, clicked her mandibles in what her species used as approval. Observer Kelm, whose aquatic species rarely spoke, actually made a sound of support. Daniel watched Linda's shoulders rise and fall with a deep breath. She had dealt with this treatment for decades. They all had. Every human who served the council knew the truth. Humans did the hard work. Humans volunteered for dangerous assignments. Humans stayed up through multiple day cycles to solve problems. And when something went wrong, humans received the blame. Linda returned to Daniel's side without another word. There was no point in arguing further. The council had already decided humans were at fault. The session continued for 3 more hours. Daniel listened as the council discussed new trade agreements that humans had spent months negotiating. The council members argued about details, changed important parts, and never once thanked the human team that had done all the actual work. Then they voted on a new security measure for the border regions. It was almost identical to a plan humans had suggested 2 years ago. Back then, the council called it too expensive and unnecessary. Now they acted as if they had invented the idea themselves. Finally, near the end of the session, Vrix called for a vote on a resolution. Daniel listened carefully as the words were translated. "This council moves to formally censure the human delegation for their failure to prevent the Terrius conflict. Furthermore, humans will face reduced voting power on military matters until they prove their competence in peacekeeping operations." Daniel felt something cold settle in his chest. Reduced voting power. After everything humans had done, after 70 years of service, he looked at Linda. She looked back at him. No words needed to be spoken. They had discussed this possibility many times over the past few months. The vote proceeded quickly. 41 species voted in favor of the censure. Only 3 voted against it. 2 species abstained. The measure passed easily. Vrix looked satisfied with himself. The resolution is adopted, he announced. Perhaps this will motivate humans to take their responsibilities more seriously. Daniel stood up. The movement caught attention because it was unusual. Humans typically waited until sessions formally ended before leaving. He walked to the speaker's platform. Linda followed him. The chamber grew slightly quieter, though many council members still talked among themselves. Councillor Vrix, Daniel said calmly. Members of the Galactic Council, I have an announcement. Now the chamber fell completely silent. Even the most disrespectful delegates stopped their conversations. Humanity is withdrawing from the Galactic Council effective immediately. The silence lasted for exactly 3 seconds. Then the chamber erupted in noise. Delegates jumped from their seats. Some shouted questions. Others laughed. Vrix's face showed confusion mixed with something like amusement. You cannot be serious, Vrix said when the noise died down enough to speak. Humans are throwing a tantrum because of one censure. This is not a tantrum, Daniel replied. His voice remained calm and professional. This is a decision humanity has considered carefully. We have served this council faithfully for 70 years. We have done so with dedication and without complaint. But we will no longer serve an organization that treats our contributions with contempt. More laughter from some delegates. Shara clicked her mandibles rapidly. The humans are bluffing, she said loudly. They need the council more than we need them. Daniel did not respond to that. He simply nodded to Linda. Together they turned and walked toward the exit. Commander Carter, Vrix called out. If you leave now, there will be consequences. The council will not welcome you back. Daniel stopped at the doorway. He turned slightly to look back at the chamber one final time. We are not asking to come back, he said quietly. Then he and Linda left the chamber. Behind them, the council erupted in noise again. But the 2 humans did not hear it. They walked down the long corridor toward the docking bays where human ships waited. Within 6 hours, every human representative had left the council station. Within 12 hours, human ships began departing from council space. There were no dramatic announcements, no angry speeches, no threats or demands. The humans simply left, silently and completely. And the galaxy would soon understand what that silence truly meant. Silently, the humans left Avrio, forcing the council to face its consequences. Lieutenant Greg Mason stood in the medical bay of Station Forward 9, watching as Dr. Claire Bennett packed the last of the medical supplies into transport containers. The station had been humanity's largest medical facility in council space, treating patients from dozens of different species. Now the room stood empty except for the equipment being carefully loaded for departure. This feels wrong, Greg said quietly. We are leaving people who need help. Claire looked up from her work. Her hands moved efficiently, wrapping delicate instruments in protective foam. We offered help for 70 years, she replied. They made it clear what they think of our help. Greg knew she was right, but it still bothered him. He had been stationed here for 4 years. He knew the patients by name. He knew which species needed special atmospheric conditions. He knew which medications worked for which biology. Walking away from all that knowledge felt like abandoning his duty. The transport leaves in 2 hours, Claire said. Make sure all personnel are accounted for. Greg nodded and left to check on the rest of the team. As he walked through the corridors, he saw other humans doing the same work. Packing equipment, closing down systems, erasing sensitive data from computers. Everything was organized and professional. No anger, no sabotage. Humans were leaving exactly as they had arrived decades ago, with dignity and order. 3 systems away, Councillor Vrix sat in his private office staring at reports. The reports all said the same thing. Humans were leaving, not just from the council station, but from everywhere. Medical facilities, trade outposts, peacekeeping bases, communications hubs, research stations. Every single human was withdrawing from council space. Vrix had expected some humans to leave. He thought it would be a small group, the ones who felt personally insulted. He never imagined all of them would go. The reports kept coming, and each one added to a growing list of abandoned positions. His communication device buzzed. Trade Minister Gallon appeared on the screen, his feathered crest raised in agitation. Have you seen the departure lists? Galan's voice came through high and stressed. Humans operated 60% of the trade route security. 60%. Who is going to protect those routes now? We will hire security from other species, Vrix replied, trying to sound confident. I already tried, Galen said. Do you know what they are charging? 5 times what we paid humans, and they want payment in advance. Humans always accepted payment after services were completed. Vrix ended the call. He did not want to hear more problems. But the problems kept coming anyway. Security Chief Vraxt contacted him next. The warrior species was known for being calm under pressure, but even Vraxt sounded concerned. The humans took all their tactical data with them, Vraxt reported. All the intelligence networks they built, all the threat assessments, all the conflict prediction models. We have nothing. Build new networks, Vrix ordered. That will take years, Vraxt said. The humans spent decades developing those systems. Do we have years? Vrix did not answer that question. On the outer edge of Council space, Captain Helen Foster stood on the bridge of her ship, the Defiant. They had just crossed into human territory. Behind them, Council space grew smaller in the view screen. Captain, her navigation officer said, we are receiving a distress call. A trading vessel under attack by pirates. They are requesting assistance. Helen pulled up the information. The ship was Zinthari, a species that had voted in favor of the human censure. She remembered because she had checked the voting records after the announcement. Are we still in Council space? She asked. No, Captain. We crossed the border 3 minutes ago. Then it is not our concern, Helen said. Continue on course. The navigation officer looked surprised but followed orders. The Defiant continued toward human space without slowing down. Back in Council space, the distress call went unanswered. The trading vessel was severely damaged before Council security finally arrived. By then, the pirates had taken everything valuable and disappeared into the deep space lanes. 3 weeks after the human departure, problems began appearing faster than the Council could address them. Medical emergencies on stations that had relied on human doctors, trade ships attacked on routes humans used to patrol, communication breakdowns in systems humans had maintained, small border conflicts that humans used to mediate before they became serious. Vrix called an emergency council session. The chamber was tense. No one was laughing now. We need to address the human situation, Vrix began. Their departure has created some logistical challenges. Some challenges? Delegate Shara's voice was sharp. My homeworld's medical shipment never arrived. The transport was attacked. 6 of my people died because they did not receive treatments in time. Humans used to escort those shipments. We lost 4 trade ships this week, Galen added. 4. We used to lose 1 ship per month when humans protected the routes. The Karth and Velen are fighting again, Vraxt reported. It started as a minor dispute. Humans would have mediated. Now it is a full conflict with 300 casualties. Vrix listened to report after report, each one worse than the last. He had not realized how much work humans actually did. When they were here, everything ran smoothly. So smoothly that it seemed easy. No one noticed all the small problems humans solved before they became big problems. We should contact the humans, suggested Observer Kelm. Apologize. Ask them to return. Apologize. Vrix's pride hurt at the suggestion. They left. That was their choice. We did nothing wrong. Nothing wrong? Shara stood up, her mandibles clicking in anger. We blamed them for Terius. We reduced their voting power. We treated them like servants for 70 years. And you say we did nothing wrong? They were emotional and inefficient, Vrix argued. They could not handle criticism. They handled everything, Galen said quietly. The question is whether we can handle anything without them. The council session ended without any decisions. Vrix returned to his office and tried to contact human leadership. He sent messages to their government. He tried to reach Daniel Carter. He attempted to call Linda Hayes. Every message received the same automated response. Humanity is no longer part of the Galactic Council. Please direct all inquiries through proper diplomatic channels. When Vrix tried the diplomatic channels, he received another automated message. Human diplomatic services are currently unavailable to non-allied species. 2 months after the human departure, Station Kepler 7 reported an outbreak of crimson fever. The disease was deadly to 3 different species. Human doctors had the only effective treatment protocol. Without humans, the station's medical staff tried their best. It was not enough. The death count rose every day. Refugee ships began arriving at stable systems, fleeing from conflicts that were spreading without human peacekeepers to stop them. Species that had lived peacefully for decades suddenly found themselves fighting over resources that humans used to distribute fairly. Trade routes became so dangerous that merchants refused to travel without expensive military escorts. Prices for basic goods increased by 40%. Some colonies faced shortages of food and medicine. Vrix watched it all fall apart. The council met every day now, trying to solve crisis after crisis, but they were always too slow, always one step behind. They did not have the humans' intuition for seeing problems before they became disasters. 3 months after the humans left, Vrix finally understood. The council had not been running the galaxy. Humans had. The council just sat in chambers and voted while humans did the actual work of keeping civilization functioning. And now that work was not being done. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson about the difference between making decisions and making things work. The council had always been good at the first. Humans had been essential for the second. Vrix looked at the latest reports. More conflicts. More deaths. More systems failing. He knew what needed to happen. Someone had to admit the truth. But his pride would not let him do it. Not yet. The galaxy continued to fall apart while the council tried to figure out how to function without the humans they had taken for granted for so long. Silently, the humans left Aboire, forcing the council to face its consequences. 3 months had passed since the humans left. Captain Helen Foster sat in her quarters reviewing reports from council space. She did not have to read them. Human intelligence was no longer monitoring council affairs. But the reports came anyway, from news feeds and independent sources. She read them because she needed to know if humanity had made the right choice. The reports painted a clear picture. The council was collapsing under the weight of problems it did not know how to solve. Helen felt no satisfaction reading about the chaos. She felt sadness. Sadness for all the suffering that could have been prevented. A chime at her door interrupted her reading. "Come in," she called. A young ensign entered looking nervous. "Captain, there is someone at the border requesting permission to enter human space. A Zinthari merchant named Zin. He says it is urgent." Helen remembered that name. Merchant Zin had been rude to human traders many times. He once told a human crew that they were too stupid to understand proper business. He laughed when other merchants cheated humans on deals. "What does he want?" Helen asked. "He says his ship was damaged by pirates. He needs repairs and medical attention for his crew." Helen considered this. 6 months ago, she would have helped immediately. That was what humans did. They helped because it was right, not because they received thanks for it. But things had changed. "Tell Merchant Zin that human repair facilities are only available to allied species," Helen said. "The council is not our ally. He should seek help in council space." The ensign nodded and left. Helen returned to her reports, but she could not focus. She kept thinking about Zin's damaged ship, about his injured crew, about the help she could provide but was choosing not to give. This was the price of respect. Sometimes respect meant saying no. In council space, Councillor Vrix faced his own difficult moments. He stood in the council chamber looking at empty seats. 6 species had stopped sending representatives. They said there was no point in attending meetings when the council could not protect them or maintain basic services. The chamber that once buzzed with hundreds of voices now felt hollow. Only 30 species still participated regularly. The rest sent occasional messages but mostly focused on their own survival. Military Commander Thrax approached Vrix with another report. The warrior's face showed exhaustion. He had not rested properly in weeks. "The Bendari and Kulan are at war," Thrax said bluntly. "Full war. Not a border skirmish. They are destroying each other's colonies." "Send peacekeepers," Vrix ordered. "We do not have peacekeepers," Thrax replied. "Not real ones. The species we hired to replace humans quit after the first month. They said the work was too dangerous for the pay we offered." "What did we pay humans for that work?" Vrix asked. 1/3 of what we offered the replacements," Thrax said, and humans did not complain about danger. They considered it part of their duty. Vrix closed his eyes. Another mistake revealed. Another truth too late to matter. Civilian leader Mira contacted the council with desperate news. Station Kepler 7 was being evacuated. The Crimson Fever outbreak had spread beyond control. Over 4,000 people had died. The survivors were fleeing to other stations, potentially carrying the disease with them. This is going to spread across multiple systems, Mira said during the emergency session. We need to establish quarantine protocols. We need medical teams with experience in outbreak control. The humans had such teams, Observer Kelm said quietly. They trained for exactly these situations. The humans are gone, Rick said sharply. We must solve this ourselves, but they could not solve it. The disease spread to 3 more stations before the council managed to implement basic quarantine measures. The measures were too little and too late. By the time they acted, 8,000 people had died. On the human border, more refugees arrived every day. They came in damaged ships, desperate and scared. They begged for entry into human space. They promised to work, to serve, to do anything if humans would just help them. Ambassador Linda Hayes met with the refugee coordinators. She looked at the reports showing thousands of aliens gathered at human borders, families, children, people who had nothing to do with the council's decisions. Can we help them? One coordinator asked Linda. Linda wanted to say yes. Every human wanted to say yes. It was in their nature to help those who suffered. But Linda also understood that helping now would teach the wrong lesson. We can offer temporary shelter at the border stations, Linda decided. Basic food and medical care. But we cannot allow them into human space. If we do, the council will never take responsibility for its own citizens. It was a hard decision. Linda knew some of those refugees would die waiting for the council to help them. But if humans kept solving every problem, the council would never learn to prevent them. Young delegate Kessa from the Mirren species spent her days in the council archives. She was new to the council, appointed after the humans left. Unlike the older delegates, she had no prejudice against humans. She simply wanted to understand what had happened. The archives told a story that shocked her. She found records of human peacekeepers preventing conflicts before they started. Reports of human doctors developing treatments for diseases that affected species they had never encountered before. Logs of human engineers solving problems no one else could figure out. She found a report about a human team that died protecting a Quelon colony from raiders. The humans were not even supposed to be there. They heard the distress call and responded because no one else could arrive in time. All 7 humans died. They saved 2,000 Quelon lives. Kessa checked the council records for any recognition of that sacrifice. She found nothing, not even a mention in the official reports. She found another file. A human named Lieutenant Patrick Sullivan, who spent 3 years mediating between the Karth and Velen. His patient work prevented a war that would have killed millions. The council records credited the peace to diplomatic progress with no mention of Patrick. File after file showed the same pattern. Humans did the hard work. Humans made the sacrifices. Humans saved lives. And the council either took credit or ignored it completely. Kessa brought her findings to the council session. She stood at the speaker's platform with her evidence displayed for everyone to see. We did not just lose workers when the humans left, she said clearly. We lost the people who held our civilization together. While we sat here arguing and taking credit, humans were out in the galaxy doing the actual work of maintaining peace. That is their purpose, Delegate Shara replied. They are good at following orders. They were not following orders, Kessa said, her voice rising. Look at these records. Most of what humans did, they volunteered for. They saw problems and fixed them without being asked. They saved lives because it was right, not because we told them to. She pulled up the report about the Quelon colony. 7 humans died protecting people who had voted to censure them. They could have ignored that distress call. Instead, they gave their lives. Does that sound like someone just following orders? The chamber fell silent. Even Shara had no response to that. We called them emotional, Kessa continued. We said their feelings made them weak. But their emotions gave them compassion. It made them care about people they had never met. It made them work harder than any logical being would, and we mocked them for it. Vrix listened to the young delegate with growing discomfort. Every word she spoke was true. The evidence was clear. The council had been fools. What do you suggest? Vrix asked. We need to apologize, Kessa said simply. Not because we want them to come back and fix our problems, but because we were wrong. We need to admit that. An apology will not solve our current crises, Thrax pointed out. No, Kessa agreed, but it is the right thing to do. Maybe we should try doing the right thing for once instead of only doing what benefits us. Her words hung in the air. The council members looked at each other uncomfortably. Admitting fault did not come naturally to any of them, but the evidence was undeniable. The galaxy was falling apart. Thousands were dying. Systems were collapsing. All because humans were no longer there to hold things together. Brix knew what had to be done. His pride had cost enough lives already. Draft a formal apology, he said quietly. Address it to the human government. Make it clear that we understand our mistakes. It was a start, a small one. But it was something. Outside the council station, another ship full of refugees arrived. They would wait at human borders, hoping for help that would not come until their own leaders learned to provide it. The galaxy was learning a painful lesson about the true cost of taking others for granted. Silently, the humans left a burr, forcing the council to face its consequences. 6 months had passed since humanity withdrew from the Galactic Council. Ambassador Linda Hayes sat in her office on Earth, reading the latest reports from council space. The news grew worse each week, not because humans wanted the council to suffer, but because the problems were real and no one was solving them. A message notification appeared on her screen. It was marked with the council's official seal. Linda hesitated before opening it. She had received angry messages from council members before, demands that humans return, accusations that humans were responsible for the chaos. None of them showed any real understanding of what had happened, but this message was different. It was addressed personally to her from Councillor Vrix. The first line made her sit up straight. Ambassador Hayes, I write to you with humility and regret. Linda read the entire message slowly. Vrix acknowledged the council's failures. He admitted that humans had been treated unfairly. He recognized the sacrifices humans made. The apology was formal and careful, but it seemed genuine. The message ended with a request. Vrix wanted to meet with human leadership, not to demand their return, but to understand how to move forward. Linda forwarded the message to Commander Daniel Carter. They had been working together to shape humanity's response to the council situation. Daniel called her within minutes. What do you think? He asked. I think he means it, Linda replied, but meaning it is not enough. The council has to prove they have changed. Agreed, Daniel said. Should we meet with them? Linda considered this carefully. Her instinct was to help. It always had been. But she also knew that rushing to fix the council's problems would teach them nothing. Let us wait, she decided. Let them sit with their apology for a while. Let them understand that words alone are not sufficient. 1 week later, another message arrived. This time from Delegate Kessa. The young Miran had become something of a voice for change within the council. Her message was less formal than Vrix's, more passionate. She described what she had learned from the archives. She wrote about the humans who died protecting others. She explained how the council had taken credit for human work. She ended with a simple statement. We do not deserve your forgiveness, but the innocent people suffering from our mistakes do not deserve their pain. I am not asking you to return. I am asking you to teach us how to be better. Linda showed this message to Daniel as well. He read it twice before responding. She understands, he said quietly. Maybe not everyone on the council does, but she does. One delegate cannot change an entire government, Linda pointed out. No, Daniel agreed. But one delegate can start a movement. We should respond to her. Linda wrote back to Kessa. She did not make promises. She did not offer solutions. But she acknowledged Kessa's honesty and encouraged her to keep pushing for change within the council. In council space, the situation continued to deteriorate. Former peacekeeper candidate Rin walked through the ruins of a Velen settlement. The war between the Velen and Karth had destroyed 12 colonies. Millions were dead or displaced. Rin had trained with human peacekeepers 5 years ago. Back then, he thought the humans were too cautious, too focused on prevention rather than action. Now he understood. Prevention was everything. Stopping a war before it started saved more lives than winning it after it began. The humans knew this. They tried to teach it. No one listened. Rin found survivors huddled in what remained of a medical center. An elderly Velen looked up at him with tired eyes. Are the humans coming to help? The elder asked. Rin did not know how to answer. The humans are not part of the council anymore. Why did they leave? Because we treated them badly, Rin admitted. We took them for granted. The elder nodded slowly. My daughter was saved by a human doctor once. She had a disease no one understood. The human stayed with her for 3 days straight, trying different treatments. She never gave up. My daughter lived because that human refused to quit. Rin had heard dozens of similar stories. Everyone seemed to have a memory of a human who helped them. A peacekeeper who listened to their problems, a medic who treated them with kindness, a trader who gave them fair prices. The galaxy was full of people who had been touched by human compassion, but those same people had voted for leaders who mocked that compassion. They had allowed their governments to treat humans as servants. Now they were paying the price. Rin returned to the council station and requested to speak at the next session. When his turn came, he stood at the platform and looked at the delegates. I trained with human peacekeepers, he began. I thought I was better than them, stronger, faster, more decisive. Then I watched them work. They did not just stop fights, they listened to people. They found the root causes of conflicts. They solved problems before they became violent. He paused, letting his words sink in. I have been trying to do what they did, he continued. I have failed every time. Not because I am not strong enough, but because I do not have their patience, their compassion, their willingness to put others first. Several delegates looked uncomfortable. Good. They should be uncomfortable. We called them emotional, Rin said, as if emotion was a weakness, but their emotions made them care about strangers. It made them work harder than logic would demand. It made them sacrifice themselves for people who never thanked them, and we treated that like it was something to mock. He looked directly at Vrix. The humans did not leave because they were weak. They left because they finally realized we would never respect them. We took 70 years of service and threw it back in their faces. They had every right to walk away. The chamber was silent. Rin stepped down from the platform and returned to his seat. He did not know if his words would change anything, but someone had to speak the truth. After the session, Vrix approached him privately. You are right, Vrix said. About all of it. I am trying to make things right. Trying is not enough, Rin replied. You have to succeed. People are dying because we failed them. Vrix nodded. He looked older than he had 6 months ago. The stress of watching everything fall apart had taken its toll. I am meeting with the humans soon, Vrix said. What should I tell them? Tell them the truth, Rin suggested. Do not make excuses. Do not ask them to save us. Just admit what we did wrong and ask them what we need to do to earn back their trust. 2 weeks later, Vrix led a delegation to human space. They arrived without military escorts or grand ceremonies. Just 5 representatives in a simple transport ship. Vrix, Kessa, Thrax, Galen, and Observer Kelm. They represented different species and different viewpoints, but they all agreed on one thing. The council had been wrong. The humans allowed them to enter. But there was no warm welcome. No immediate meetings with high officials. The delegation waited in a neutral diplomatic facility for 3 days before anyone came to see them. When Commander Daniel Carter finally arrived, he came alone. No assistants, no security detail. Just one human sitting across from 5 council representatives. Thank you for seeing us, Vrix began. Daniel said nothing. He simply waited for Vrix to continue. We were wrong, Vrix said. The words came harder than he expected. We treated humanity poorly. We took your work for granted. We blamed you for our failures. We mocked qualities that we should have respected. And when you left, we learned how much we depended on you. Still, Daniel said nothing. His face showed no emotion. We are not here to ask you to return, Vrix continued. We know we have no right to ask that. We are here to apologize, sincerely and completely, and to ask what we must do to earn your trust again. Daniel leaned forward slightly. Trust is not given, he said quietly. It is earned through action. Words are easy. Counselor Vrix, you have spoken many words over the years. Most of them were unkind. Why should we believe these words are different? Vrix had no good answer to that. Daniel was right. The council had to prove themselves through action, not promises. What would you need to see? Vrix asked. That is for you to figure out, Daniel replied. We are not going to tell you how to fix your problems, that is the whole point. You need to learn to solve them yourselves. It was not the answer Vrix hoped for, but it was the answer he deserved. The meeting ended without any agreements, but something had shifted. For the first time, the council admitted its mistakes without excuses. It was a small step, but small steps were how long journeys began. Silently, the humans left Aborzar. Forcing the council to face its consequences, 1 year had passed since humanity withdrew from the Galactic Council. Commander Daniel Carter stood at the observation deck of Earth's primary orbital station, looking out at the stars. So much had changed in that year. The council had struggled. The galaxy had suffered, and humanity had watched it all from a distance. Ambassador Linda Hayes joined him at the window. They had worked together through this entire crisis, shaping humanity's response to each development. It had not been easy. Every day brought news of suffering in council space. Every day tested their resolve to let the council face its consequences. The delegation is here, Linda said quietly. Vrix brought 20 representatives this time. 1 from each major species, Daniel nodded. This was the 3rd meeting in 6 months. After the first awkward conversation, Vrix had returned to the council and begun implementing changes. Real changes. Not just promises, but actual reforms to how the council operated. Have you reviewed what they have done? Daniel asked. I have, Linda confirmed. They created a memorial for every human who died in council service. 243 names. They are teaching the truth about human contributions in their schools. They reformed their voting system to prevent any species from being marginalized again, and they have been working to solve their own problems without asking us for help. How is that going? Daniel asked. Better than expected, Linda admitted. They still fail more often than we did, but they are learning. Kessa has become quite influential. She leads a coalition of younger delegates pushing for continued reform. Daniel turned from the window. Do you think they have changed enough? Linda considered this carefully. I think some of them have changed completely. Others are changing slowly. A few have not changed at all. But the council as a whole is moving in the right direction. Is that enough? Daniel pressed. That depends on what we want, Linda replied. If we want perfection, we will wait forever. If we want genuine effort and progress, then yes, it might be enough. They walked together to the conference room where the council delegation waited. This room was different from the Grand Council chamber. It was smaller, simpler, designed for honest conversation rather than political theater. Councillor Vrix stood when they entered. The reptilian leader looked different now. Less proud, more tired, but also more genuine. Commander Carter, Ambassador Hayes, thank you for meeting with us again. Daniel and Linda took their seats. The room held tension, but it was different from their first meeting. Less hostile. More hopeful. We have come to present what we have accomplished, Vrix continued, and to discuss the possibility of renewed partnership with humanity. Delegate Kessa stood next. She had become the voice of the reform movement within the council. We do not ask you to rejoin the council as it was, she said clearly. That system was broken. We know that now. Instead, we propose a new arrangement. True partnership, where humans have equal authority and voting power proportional to their contributions. She activated a display showing the proposed changes. Daniel and Linda studied them carefully. The reforms were substantial. They gave humans real power, not just token representation. They included protections against the kind of treatment humanity had endured before. Captain Peter Stone, representing the human military, spoke up. What about the species that have not changed? The ones who still believe humans are inferior? They are a minority now, Thrax replied. The military commander had become an advocate for human partnership. Most species have learned the truth. Those who have not lost influence when they could not solve basic problems. And if humans return and those attitudes resurface, Peter pressed, then you leave again, Vrix said simply. We have included a clause. Humanity can withdraw at any time without penalty. You are not trapped. You choose to stay or go based on how you are treated. Daniel appreciated that. It showed the council understood that partnership required ongoing respect, not just initial promises. Ambassador Linda spoke next. You have made impressive changes to your government structure. But structure is not the same as culture. How do we know the attitudes have truly shifted? Delegate Shara stood. The insectoid representative had been one of the harshest critics of humanity. I owe you an apology, she said directly. I mocked human emotions. I called you weak. I was wrong. My homeworld suffered during the medical crisis. A human doctor named Dr. Elizabeth Parker developed the original treatment protocols we failed to maintain. 3,000 of my people died because we did not have her knowledge. That doctor had saved my niece 12 years ago. I never thanked her. I never even knew her name until after she was gone. Shara's mandibles clicked in what Daniel recognized as grief. I learned too late what humanity gave us. I am teaching my children differently. Many of us are. Observer Kelm spoke in his bubbling aquatic voice. We erected memorials, but that felt insufficient. So we did more. Every school and council space now teaches accurate history. Children learn about Lieutenant Patrick Sullivan, who prevented the Karth-Velen War, about the 7 humans who died protecting the Quellan colony, about Dr. Claire Bennett, who saved thousands during the Rigel Plague. We tell the truth now. Former peacekeeper Rin added his perspective. I have been training new peacekeepers using human methods, teaching them patience and prevention. It is hard. Many quit because they think the work is beneath them. But some are learning. We are building something better even if it takes longer. The presentations continued for 2 hours. The council representatives showed evidence of real change, not just in laws and structures, but in attitudes and education. They had monuments and memorials. They had reformed their schools. They had changed how they approached problems. When they finished, Daniel looked at Linda. They had discussed this possibility many times. They knew what humanity would decide. We need time to review everything you have presented, Daniel said, and to consult with our government. But I can tell you this. The changes you have made are significant. You have shown genuine effort and growth. Does that mean you will return? Fricks asked hopefully. It means we are willing to discuss partnership, Linda clarified. Not as subordinates. Not as workers who do everything while you take credit. True partners with equal respect and authority. That is all we ask, Kessa said. A chance to prove we have learned. The meeting ended with agreements to continue negotiations. The council delegation departed with cautious optimism. Daniel and Linda remained in the conference room after everyone left. What do you think? Linda asked. I think they have learned something valuable, Daniel replied. They learned that compassion is not weakness. That service is not servitude. That the people who do the work deserve respect. Will they remember it? Linda wondered. In 5 years, in 10? Maybe not all of them, Daniel admitted. But enough will, and we have the power to leave again if they forget. That changes everything. Linda nodded slowly. So we help them again. We partner with them, Daniel corrected. Partners, not servants. There is a difference. Over the next 3 months, negotiations continued. Humanity agreed to a trial period. Human ships would return to council space as independent contractors, not subordinates. They would assist with critical situations, but would not resume all their previous responsibilities. The council had to maintain what they had learned. The first human ship to cross back into council space was the Defiant, commanded by Captain Helen Foster. She had been the first to refuse help to council species. Now she was the first to return. As her ship approached the border, she received dozens of messages. Welcome messages from species she had never met. Thank you messages from people who had learned what humans sacrificed. Even an apology from Merchant Zinn, who admitted he had been wrong to treat humans poorly. Helen read the messages carefully. Some seemed genuine. Others seemed like they were just trying to get humans to solve their problems again. But enough were real to give her hope. At the council station, a crowd gathered to watch the Defiant dock. They did not cheer or celebrate. They simply stood in respectful silence as the human ship arrived. On the docking platform, a memorial had been erected. It listed the names of every human who had died in council service. Helen stood before the memorial for a long moment, reading the names. She knew some of them personally. Good people who gave everything for a galaxy that did not appreciate them. We will remember now, a voice said beside her. It was Delegate Kessa. We promise to remember. Helen looked at the young Mirren. Promises are easy, she said quietly. Remembering is harder, especially when things are going well and you do not need us anymore. Then we will have to prove ourselves, Kessa replied. Every day. That is fair, it was fair. And it was more than the council had offered before. That evening, Commander Daniel Carter and Ambassador Linda Hayes watched news coverage of humanity's return to council space. The reports were respectful, honest, acknowledging both the past mistakes and the hope for a better future. Do you think this will work? Linda asked. I think we gave them a chance to learn, Daniel replied. They took it. That is all we can ask. And if they forget again, Daniel smiled slightly, then we leave again. But this time they know we will. That knowledge might be the most important lesson of all.